I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the Gospel of John, chapter 21, so let's focus on verses 7b through 11. When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he tied his outer garment around him, for he was stripped, and plunged into the sea. But since they were not far from the land, about 100 yards away, the other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish. And when they got on land, they saw a charcoal fire there with fish lying on it and bread. "Bring some of the fish you've just caught," Jesus told them. So Simon Peter got up, hauled the net ashore, full of large fish, 153 of them. Even though there were so many of them, the net was not torn. The theme of the last chapter of the Gospel of John seems to be restoration for Simon Peter and shoring up loose ends for 6 other disciples. And today I want to focus on 2 less obvious aspects of this chapter. You know, the Bible tells us that they were fishing in the Sea of Tiberias, and that's another term for the southern part of the Sea of Galilee. You see, Tiberias was a Roman town. Up to the north, you had Capernaum, which was a religious Jewish town, as well as Magdala, which is also a religious Jewish town. But since religious Jews would never choose to live around Romans, it looks like Tiberias was safe enough for the disciples to lay low and still fish in familiar waters. And while Pilate defended Jesus 3 times at his trial and then recanted, well, Peter denied Jesus 3 times, and in John 21, he repented. And we know that Peter's heart desired reconciliation with Jesus. And the moment that he perceived Jesus was on the shore, well, Peter jumped into the water. And this scene is reminiscent of an earlier time when Peter's lack of faith prohibited him from walking on water. Consider Matthew 14, verses 28 through 30. "Lord, if it's you," Peter answered him, "command me to come to you on the water." "Come," Jesus said. And climbing out of the boat, Peter started walking on the water, and he came toward Jesus. But when he saw the strength of the wind, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Well, we can assume that Peter possibly believed that he could walk on water because he was already stripped down for swimming attire, and yet he tied his garment around himself. He got dressed before he jumped out of the boat. And I think Peter was trying to communicate to Jesus, and who could know? The Bible doesn't say. But it seems that he was willing to be faithful enough to give it another chance, to put on all of his clothes before he stepped off the boat. And then the second observation in chapter 21 concerns the number of fish that the disciples caught. Theologians have observed that there were 153 known people groups in the days of Jesus and the disciples. And if that's true, then the miracle of the great haul of fish may be symbolic of worldwide evangelism. The disciples caught 1 of every type of fish. And it's perhaps talking about how the gospel would eventually spread to the outermost parts of the world. Regardless, the Lord did not arbitrarily mention the number of fish. There was a reason. And the great haul of fish also foretold of the end of the age when all mankind will be judged. Consider Jesus' words in Matthew chapter 13, verse 47. "Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a large net thrown into the sea. It collected every kind of fish, and when it was full, they dragged it ashore, sat down, and gathered the good fish into containers, but threw out the worthless ones. And so it will be at the end of the age." Have you received the gospel? And have you put your faith and your trust in Jesus Christ alone? Well, then you are saved, a good fish, as it were. And you can stand before the Lord justified at the end of the age. And if not, why not today? You can call upon the Lord even now and tell him, "Listen, I believe that you died for my sin on the cross. I believe that you rose from the grave and you are alive today. Lord, I believe. Now help me with my unbelief." And he'll answer a prayer like that. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Check us out at groundworksministries.com.